Hello, Rabbi Friedman.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Thank God it's Tuesday. Oh my goodness. and really, the topic, I just said it in Russian, and it's something that I really, really want to discuss with you and get the insights, besides the fact that we're living in the judgment times spiritually, these 9 days that we're going through. This is definitely a judgment for all of us. And also, we're living in a time of judgment. It seems like we all became Supreme Court judges. Everything we see, we judge. We judge each other, we judge the politicians, the judges, the teachers, the doctors, the lawyers, our children, our parents, each other. It's judgment, judgment, judgment. Everything we see, we judge, we have an opinion about it. I don't know if it has been like this always, but it's certainly like this now. And the question, of course, is it okay? Is it healthy? Is it unhealthy? And if it's inevitable, is there a right way to do it, a wrong way to do it? How does it affect us? So I have a whole bunch of questions about judgment today, and I think we all very much need to talk about this topic. So, Rabbi Friedman, we're counting on you.
Is it all bad? Probably not. There's a reason. There's a good cause. The disappointment, the disillusionment in all of those things that we trusted and that we didn't question and we didn't judge, that's painful. So it's not unreasonable, and it's not for no reason that we've become a little bit mistrustful, maybe more than a little bit. So the things that we used to trust and we used to be able to rely on, now we've become critical because we've seen it fail. Every political system is failing in its own way, whether it's communism, socialism, democracy, Zionism, secularism, liberalism. It's all failing. So then the painful question is, what's left? We know we're not going to accomplish anything by judging. That's just an expression of our frustration, of our disillusionment. That's not a solution. So what is the solution? What can we trust? Well, this is what was supposed to happen in the days before Mashiach. We need a true and very different model of leadership, a kind of a leadership we haven't seen, that is impressive enough to allow us to trust again after all this disappointment. So that's what Mashiach is. In the olden days, we would call it the idols. All the idols that we used to believe in and worship have disappointed us. They have failed. Not only weren't they good for us, they were bad for us. Everything, including science or scientists. Science can't disappoint you, but scientists can. So science, education, medicine, everything. And we used to trust it so completely, so innocently. What a doctor said, what a scientist said, what a teacher said, and slowly it just deteriorated. So it's not all bad. It's necessary, and it will lead us to a much higher, much better place. After COVID, we were talking about, when do we get back to normal? When can we go back to normal? And we were very clear about we don't want to go back to the normal we had before. There was nothing good about it. We want something much better than we've had before. So I'm not sure exactly what to expect. But are we looking for better teachers? Are we looking for better politicians? Are we looking for better doctors? More honest scientists? Yeah, well, more honest. How much of an improvement is that? A better doctor? No, that's not good enough. We need something radically different. Something we haven't seen yet. And for that, you have to be so open, so ready, that you can't be holding on to any of the old beliefs. Because if you still think that the old system might work if you just improve a little detail, then you won't trust something completely new. We feel more comfortable with what we know. So in order for something radically new to happen, the old stuff has to really disappear. And it's disappearing.
And thank God for that. But Rabbi Friedman, what about judgment of each other? I mean, we're so caught up in this game of judgment that it's spilling over. Have we always judged each other as well? Is this something common, or is it something that is very particular to our times, that we are also distrusting towards each other and judgmental?
Yeah, we were always, to some degree, judgmental. But with each other, it was about what? I think you're lazy. I don't think you're so smart. It's not a terribly serious accusation or judgment. It's human. But now, in our desperation, we don't know who to blame for the collapse of everything, that we start judging each other as if you're responsible for the disasters in health. You're responsible for the craziness in education. Of course not. But I don't know who to blame. So yeah, we've become more intolerant of each other because we don't know what else to do. So if you don't agree with me, if you still have an opinion about any of these institutions, and it scares us. Oh, you still think politics is gonna help? You still think medicine is all on the up and up? You still think that science is not a little biased and corrupted? And so everything becomes a threat. And particularly in Israel, the crisis there is so deep because it's always been a life and death situation. Every decision in Israel is life and death because, it is. Every decision the Supreme Court makes, every decision the government makes, the army makes, it'll either save lives or cost lives. So yeah, everything is very tense. And we just spread the blame around to everybody blindly, like a kid with a machine gun. But let's talk about something positive for a minute.
Please.
And that is the 5th book of the Torah that we started reading. The 5th book of the Torah is, of course, Torah. No less than the 4 books before it. And yet, there's a radical difference, a radical departure from what the 4 books sounded like to the 5th book. With few exceptions, the 4 books of the Torah are basically God said to Moshe, and God spoke to Moshe, and God spoke to Aaron. It's all in God's voice. The 5th book, there is no quoting. Moshe is speaking in first person, saying, I took you and I told you and I was worried and I was upset. It's all in his voice. There's no quoting. So Moshe is reviewing the 40 years in the desert, also saying, and then that's when God told us, but he's not quoting God. It's all in his voice, which is really very interesting. This is God's Torah. What's Moshe doing speaking in first person? I led you into the desert. I led you? What is this? The good news is that according to Jewish law, halacha, when you're quoting somebody, when you're repeating something you heard, you should attribute it to the author, to the person you heard it from. Always give credit to who you heard it from. In fact, that helps bring Mashiach some way. However, that's only if you're quoting because it's not your idea. You don't completely understand it. And so you're quoting an authority. Like, I couldn't say this on my own. I don't have the authority to say something like this. But I heard it from whoever, and you attribute. But once you heard something and you digested it, and it becomes your way of thinking, and you can't imagine it any other way. Somebody told you that 2 and 2 is 4. You don't have to remember who it was. And you don't have to attribute it to the first grade teacher or the kindergarten teacher who told you that 2 and 2 is 4. Why? Because 2 and 2 is 4 in your mind, in your brain, in your understanding. It's just the way it is. So in essence, it's not a quote anymore. So you don't have to attribute. The fact that the 5th book of Torah is not quoting God, it's just stating fact. We went, I took you, I led you, we received the Torah, we got God angry, he was upset, we suffered, we went on. After 40 years, everything that we heard and learned, even what we experienced, like the miracle of the crossing of the sea, the miracle of the food falling from heaven, it was all so mysterious that we had to keep quoting. God said. But by the end of 40 years, what God had said has become so ingrained, so embedded, so natural to Moshe's thinking and Moshe's awareness and so on, he didn't have to quote anymore. Now it was just simple matter of fact. So the 5th book is Moshe saying goodbye to the people. They are going to enter the land, and he was not. So he's giving them last-minute instructions how to behave when the exile is over and you leave the desert going into the promised land, which is exactly where we are today. The last generation of the exile and the first generation of redemption and Geula. So I guess you could say that we are in the 5th book. We're in that stage right now where people are coming to an understanding of godliness without any prompting. Children arguing with their parents about doing more mitzvot, about lighting Shabbos candles. The children are demanding it from the parents. Where did the children get it from? Who taught them? Who should they quote? Nobody. It just makes sense to the child herself or himself. Just really incredible. Children ready to go head to head with their parents about the tradition that the parents did not teach them. So who did? Nobody knows. We're in that stage now. We're believing in God, obeying God, keeping the mitzvot. It just makes sense. I don't have to quote anybody. Which is really bringing heaven down to earth. The first thing that happens when it comes down to earth is that it makes sense to the human mind. And not necessarily the geniuses, just human. So who's going to get it first? Who's going to see it first? Not the smartest, not the oldest, the most innocent. If you're not confused, and you're not in a bad mood because everything you thought you knew has disappointed you, and now you're also not thinking straight because you're upset. Who is going to see the truth? Well, makes sense. The innocent. Those who have not been misguided can actually see the truth when it becomes available, when it becomes reachable. So the children, being the most innocent, they're getting it. They're seeing it. And they're inspiring their parents and their teachers.
Rabbi Friedman, is there a way an adult can clean themselves up to become more innocent, to be able to see better and clearer?
Yeah. I think the logical thought should be, we've tried everything new, modern, and liberal. Maybe we should try that which has always been old, reliable. If I'm going to do something, if I'm going to start a project that is completely disconnected from anything my grandparents did, completely radical change in lifestyle from my great-grandparents, then something is wrong. You can't make up life. You gotta learn from life. So whatever we're going to do with our modern approach, with our modern technology and so on, there's got to be a theme, a consistency. What was always true? So if somebody comes up with a new theory, nobody's interested. We've been through theories, like 100 of them, just in the last 10 years. So a new theory is not exciting anymore, and we don't trust it. Tell me something that has lasted. Tell me something that's been around for a long time. We can trust it. We just have to apply it in modern terms and in modern means, but it's got to be something that has proven itself over time to be reliable, to be true, to be solid, to be healthy.
Rabbi Friedman, but we are where we are because each new generation, each young generation thinks that they're better, smarter, can do better, and have better tools to do it. Isn't that kind of like progress? How do we manage it so it doesn't get out of hand as it did? It really did.
Well, just to use an obvious example, we have children today have more freedom than ever. People take their opinions seriously. In the olden days, a kid said, "I want to pierce my nose." They were just told to sit down and be quiet. Don't be ridiculous. No, and there's nothing to talk about. So what happened? Modern times gave us greater freedom. True. And it's a good thing. But does that mean you can do things that make no sense, that your grandparents would be horrified to see? How does that follow? Because you have greater freedom, you don't have to be responsible, adult, mature, useful, helpful. No. Now you have freedom. You can do whatever you want, as ridiculous as it is. No, you can't. Freedom means you are more free to do what needs to be done, to do the right thing than ever before. The freedom does not mean you can kill yourself, you can kill others, you can do whatever you want. Obviously, that's not what freedom means. So yeah, freedom is a good development. Our grandparents didn't have that kind of freedom. Hey, we didn't have that kind of freedom. You know, to get on a bus and go shopping at the mall with your own credit card. Who had what? If you weren't working at a steady job, you didn't have money and you didn't go shopping and you couldn't get on a bus. But today we can. So that's why we should massacre ourselves and tattoo ourselves and do every wild, reckless thing. Come on. So the good part is always good. Greater technology, greater communication, of course, wonderful. Use it. But use it to do more of the good stuff that our grandparents did in their limited way. Now we can do that good stuff in a much less limited way. So the modern invention should not cause us to lose our brains. Oh, we can go online and we can communicate, and therefore I'm going to say the dumbest things, the most vulgar things, and I'll send pictures that are vulgar. What are you doing? This is progress?
Rabbi Friedman, if you don't mind, I will actually use this opportunity to take us back to the topic that we're talking about, the judgment, because also the modern technology are giving us more opportunity to talk about each other, to judge each other, to put more judgment out there, and to unite through this judgment. So I would still like to maybe have some pointers about this particular thing, especially that we are approaching this Thursday, the hardest day of the year for the Jewish people, the destruction of all our temples. Main reason for the destruction was because we spoke unkindly about each other, disrespected each other. So this is kind of that judgment that comes into play. So, just want to have, it's tough times that we live in, and we do. Judgment is definitely very elevated, and for some reason we think we have a right to judge, and the popular saying is, if we don't judge each other, what are we going to have to talk about? So, so is there at least a good way that people can do it, or isn't there like any way that it should be ever done, and is it even possible? Is it realistic for people not to talk about each other, not to judge each other?
So let's apply the same thinking. We now have a greater freedom to judge each other and to voice that judgment on social media. Why does the judgment always have to be negative? You are now free to judge. So judge favorably. It's the same freedom. It's the same privilege. But why does it all have to be negative? In fact, if it is all negative, you're not judging. You're just jumping to conclusions. You're just following the crowd. It can't be. All judgment is negative. Judgment means you weigh all the evidence, you take everything into consideration, and you come to a conclusion according to the evidence. If every conclusion you come to is negative, you're not thinking. got to be at least 50-50. Where's the positive judgment? Every schmendrick has access to a microphone, to a platform, and can very easily and very broadly express his respect and his admiration for certain people in their lives. No, there's nobody? How can this be? How can this be? Like the fake news. All news is negative news. There's no good news. That can't be. So, yeah, use the freedom of expression. Use the freedom, but use it well. I would say use it for what it was meant. Why did God create the internet? Why at this time in history? There's a reason. And the reason is not to condemn everybody and to just spew hatred and nastiness. So let's take advantage of every modern improvement and use it to make the world better. To corrupt it is a sin. I would say the internet is a holy in discovery, a holy invention, and to use it for vulgar purposes is blasphemy. It's sacrilege. How dare you? This is a gift from God, and look what you're doing with it. And I really believe that. It is a gift from, it's better than the manna that fell from heaven.
Rabbi Friedman, but the fact that we're still in this state that we pretty much, like you said, we jump to conclusion because realistically we judge negatively. There's no one, I mean, there's very few, I don't want to say no one, that actually, you know, looks for the positive and voices the positive, and it's reflected in the news as well, and in the internet. It's more exciting to read about the bad stuff rather than the good stuff. So we're still in this state of mind, state of the world. What does that mean as far as how, is there any indication of far or close to the Mashiach? Is there anything that we're in this negative state? What does this mean? What does this mean as far as how close are we? Because if we're still negative, is that pushing us back a little bit from seeing the redemption?
I hope it's helping. But you know, if every newscast would say somebody got hit by a car, is in the hospital in a very bad condition, and then, you know, all the other bad news all over the world, people do get excited or whatever, some kind of stimulation from bad news. But that's because the bad news is the exception. The good news is everyday life. A child was born, the parents took care, the baby grew and flourished. Good news. But yeah, that's just so typical. That's just so normal. But when somebody does something absurd or horrifying, well, that's, yeah, we do like to hear these horrible things. But when you start treating the horrible as if it's the ordinary, that's corrupting. So we should report all the bad news, but report it as the exception, not as the standard. And our job is to make the bad news more and more exceptional, more and more infrequent, unnatural, unexpected. So fine, you get a kick out of that. That's good for a little entertainment. But the reason it's exciting is because, wow, That's strange. Who behaves like that? I can't believe it. But when we get the impression, yeah, everybody's corrupt, everybody lies, everybody cheats, it's not good. And that's not what the internet was created for. It's such an amazing invention. To use it to corrupt ourselves, that's so immature, irresponsible.
Rabbi Friedman, we know what's going on in the world. We know pretty much, I think everybody, more or less, majority is wide awake, wide open, eyes wide open. Yet we're still kind of living our life as we used to. We're still doing the things that we've did. We're still having even the mindset of where we were, except in a worse place, with the recession, with the worries, with understanding that we're being lied to. So how can we still go on as we did before? What needs to happen so everything really, really changes? When would this really big change come about?
I was hoping it would come in a very dramatic, sudden appearance. It seems like it has to happen gradually, one person at a time, not mass hysteria. I guess that keeps it real. But we have to, first of all, admit or recognize that it is happening. How is it happening? I don't know. Who's causing it to happen? I don't know. The best I can think of is we're giving up on everything else. What are you left with? You're left with the simple truths. Like the whole confusion about what is a woman. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to debate it. A woman is a woman. Stop. Stop the craziness. So how do I know a woman is a woman? I'm not answering that question. A woman is a woman. A man is a man. A Jew is a Jew. A human being is a human being. And I'm not debating. Yeah, well, what about those who are not? I'm not debating. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. You don't think so? We have nothing to talk about. This is not grounds for debate. There are no two sides to this issue. So, the simple truth is still the simple truth. What are you going to do? Do Jews have a right to the land of Israel? I'm not talking to you anymore. That's it. We've debated it. We've argued it. We've killed over it. No more. If you can't accept the simple truth, then go make yourself crazy in a padded room and stop bothering other people.
Great advice, Rabbi Friedman, as always. So just hopefully this is exactly what's going to happen. We're going to stop with the nonsense. Just everybody just stop. And that's it.
It is happening. It is happening. Why? Because it has to. I don't know who to quote. I can't tell you who is behind this. There's no one behind it. We have no choice. It's like there was a Meshuggah in the shtetl, in the village of Lubavitch. Back then, every village had its town. What was it called? The village idiot or the village.
Village
whatever.
Idiot sounds good.
Yeah. There was no treatment for mental illnesses, and there was no hospital for them. So they wandered the streets. So one of these characters in the city of Lubavitch was running around all night, and in the morning he was exhausted. So he falls down in the mud Lubavitch was very muddy, almost all year round. And he's lying there in the mud, and the Rebbe walked by, and the Rebbe stops and says, Yossel, are you okay? Yossel says, Oy, Rebbe, you think being Meshuggah is easy? It's a full-time job. It's exhausting.
Oh,
so we're getting exhausted from the craziness. We just have to stop. Take a break.
Rabbi Friedman, 100%. Yes, we definitely do. Thank you so much. Thank you for this amazing wisdom that you gave us today, the positivity, this direction. It's definitely another terrific direction. Just stop it. Just don't even entertain the insanity.
Ваши голоса звучат.
All right.
A good way to test it is, would you try to explain this to your grandmother?
Yeah.
If you're embarrassed to mention it to your grandmother, then let it go.
I can hear my grandmother answering me in Yiddish what she would think about it. So, Rabbi Friedman, thank you so much. Amazing. Thank you for everything that you do. I know you just had a fantastic seminar for girls, and I'm looking forward to the one that's coming up at the end of August for women. I'm already fully registered. I will give yes, and so much looking forward to it. And I'm going to announce it once we say goodbye, where people can find information about this amazing seminar that I went to last year and absolutely loved it. Pretty much inspired me for the whole year and still keeps on giving. So, well, I'll just say it now. It's BeisHanaWoman.org. All the information is there, or people can call phone number 718-604-0088 and have this amazing opportunity to be around you for a couple of days and get your wisdom up close and personal, which is, to me, that's priceless. And I'm sure to a lot of people, to everyone who benefits from your wisdom and your teachings. Thank you so much for everything, Rabbi Friedman. And of course, I look forward very much to our next program, and we have a lot to talk about, especially that I think the changes are becoming more and more rapid, and we need to keep up with the times, and with your help, we're doing it much better. So thank you so much for always giving us this opportunity.
Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi
I'm
Friedman.
looking forward
Same here.
to our retreat.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.